Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
Welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm Sonya Green from SonyaGreenCoaching.com.
And I'm Judith Fender with Judith Fender Coaching.
All right, today we are talking about the process of change.
Good stuff.
Yes. And specifically, we're talking about wanting change versus committing to change.
What's the difference, Sonya? Come on.
A lot, right? We've got a whole podcast to flesh that out. But when we start thinking about change, the first place people go many times is they want to change their circumstances, right?
Mm-hmm.
See people who want to change. I need a new job. I need a new spouse. I need a new relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And changing your circumstances, in some ways, it might be, we might think it's the easiest, but it's not going to last. It's not going to create real change.
Why is that?
You're feeding me all the questions
I
this
know. I'm
morning.
like, wait a minute. Let me put you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why won't changing? So if someone wants a spouse, right? Because they're not happy, how is just changing spouses not the answer?
Because it's our thoughts, right?
Mm-mm.
We have to change our thoughts about any situation.
It's true.
If we're feeling stuck in a marriage, in a job, we've got to look within and start changing our thoughts. Because if we don't, what happens?
Well, we carry the problem with us, like, because it's our thoughts that will still carry over into the new job, into the new marriage, and we're never really taking ownership of the situation and having, I guess, is the word clarity I want to have with this.
Yeah.
Finality or clarity of the situation. You will always be dragging it along.
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I see people who, oh, my job is just unbearable. These people that I work with are just unbearable. They're mean to me. They're nobody likes me there. And so they think moving to a different job is just going to fix that. And a year later, they're saying the same thing about that job because the thought that nobody likes me or that everybody's mean to me, playing the victim, you can pack that up and carry that with you anywhere.
Absolutely.
And the same way with a relationship.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
Yeah. So until you take ownership, like you said, until you take ownership and make yourself responsible for whatever change you want to see.
Right. Your misery. If you are suffering, if you are in discomfort, it's not the circumstance, it's your thoughts about the circumstance. And when you take ownership of that, it's from that place that you can make change.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a difference in, like we were saying before, in wanting change and actually committing to it. We all probably want something in our lives to change. And we can want all day long, but wanting is passive. With weight loss, I sat in misery, in my own misery, for years. Oh, I need to lose weight. I want to lose. Why can't I just wake up and have this weight gone? If I could have wished it away, I would have.
Same. I was absolutely, many years of my life, very much the same way, just wanting it, wanting to change, but never really being able to get into the action of change.
Yeah. Moving from wanting to committing takes action. It takes massive action. We talked about massive action several weeks ago. So you can go back and listen to that if you're not familiar with the term, but it takes more than just wanting or wishing. You've got to change your thoughts and you've got to change your emotions to get there.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think, weight loss, a big shout out to Corinne Crabtree and no BS women around the world,
Mhm.
because that's how we came to the idea of changing our thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah. She teaches us that change happens when something new comes into your life and you have a thought, or something within changes and you have a thought.
Yeah, some kind of internal shift.
Right.
And
And
I
so
know I still remember listening to her very first podcast. I think I've told this story before, but not her first podcast, but the first time I listened to one of her podcasts, I knew that I had heard something new,
mhm. Mhm.
something that I had never heard before. And I texted my best friend from college who also uh, had struggled with her weight. And I was like, I have found the woman who's going to help us change.
Did you say that?
I did.
Wow.
I did. And, and it wasn't for her. She decided on a different path. And, that's okay, because it motivated me to start really, and Corinne with her thought work motivated me to start getting into my head and figuring out what all these thoughts were that were holding me back. And
Mhm.
it's work I continue to do. I've been
Same.
doing it for over a year and a half, and
Um,
I still have goals I want to hit.
right? It is a continuous process, and
Hmm.
we never stop. And my story was very similar about wanting change and hearing Corinne. And I had a conversation with my husband, and I can remember her being up on the TV, and he was watching it with me. And I told my husband, I said, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm going to join and follow her.
Yeah.
Join in this membership because
Yeah.
she speaks the truth.
Yeah.
And it was her presence and her message that created the want in me for change.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I had always known, well, no, that's not true. I remember going to a weight loss doctor at Vanderbilt, um, and telling that doctor, I don't think this is a physical thing. I think it's in my head.
Right. And what did he
And
say?
he was just like, well, here's some pills you can take, and here's some, and it was like, it's not the. I knew I needed that change, and that hearing it was my thought that was going to take it. That was so freeing to me,
Mm-hmm.
but freeing, but interestingly, also taking massive action,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
it's a whole lot easier to take a pill.
Right. Right.
I can't speak for people, um, for everybody's journey, but for me, if taking a pill would have solved it, I'd have been there.
Yeah.
But I knew that wasn't going to solve it. I knew I was going to have to commit.
It's so, I'm just sitting here traveling back in my mind, thinking about, being in very much in the same place, the same mindset, and how exciting it was to hear her message and to know and to learn and to take massive action. Like it was
Yeah.
such, um, and I remember doing thought work on the word committed. And never, I was committed to my marriage. I was committed to obligations, owning a small business at 22 years of age. I mean, I had children at this point who were like, in their late teens, early 20s, but never thought about the commitment to myself.
Yeah.
And that is truly, in her message and her thought work, that learning to have a commitment to myself made all the difference.
Yeah.
It really did. This is so fun to think back and tell stories. I love this. Thank you. Thank you, Sonya.
Well, it just, I think that's one area where it's easy for me to pinpoint when change really started happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a process. And, you start changing your thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts are the hard things to change. They're difficult because it's hard to catch them. So, one way to work back from that, there's really 6 emotions that we can think about. And if we can think about, sometimes it's easier for people to access um, what makes them feel a certain way rather than what makes them think a certain thought.
Right, right. I'm a feeler.
So, commitment is one of those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to take commitment if you're going to change. And maybe, like you said, maybe you need to do some work on commitment, because as women, we are not good to committing to ourselves first.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much benefit to committing to ourselves first, but we're socialized to believe that that is not the thing to do in
Mm-hmm.
many cases. Again, we're talking from a Southern perspective. Um, but I think women in general, even, in different cultures around the world, we're taught not to think of ourselves, and you have to commit to yourself.
100%. What every day, sometimes moment by moment, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that leads into the next one. You have to have the courage to fail.
Mm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
don't like that one either.
Mm-hmm. Right, because what is it? Is when you have courage, you have fear. Like they come together. You can't have
Yes.
one without the other. And so there's
Mm-mm.
fear and knowing that you're going to fail, but you're going to keep going anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, because we see failure so many times, we see failure as an end point.
Right.
And that is insane, because Thomas Edison, if he had quit after he had attempted one light bulb, listen, if he had quit after he attempted 1,500 light bulbs, we wouldn't have light bulbs today.
Wasn't it some crazy number that he tried, or am I thinking of
It
telephone?
was. My students and I, we talk about this in class sometimes, and I can't remember the number, but he failed thousands of times.
Mm.
And yet we think we're supposed to get it the first time.
Mhm.
So we
Mhm.
have to commit to failing,
Mhm.
because we're not perfect creatures. We're not going to have it all figured out.
That's what we're signing up for when we commit. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. We're signing up for resilience too.
Mhm. That's how we learn resilience is through
Yeah.
the failures and getting back up.
Yeah.
We see that we can do this.
Yeah. That we're strong.
Mhm.
That it's one of my favorite things about working with young women in college, because they aren't yet, most of them, some of them have life experiences where they've already had to access their resilience, but most of them don't even know how much resilience resides in them. And getting to talk to them about that and helping them to understand that is so fun, because we are all stronger, I think, than we think we are.
That is so interesting. My mind again, just traveling. I'm like, Sonia, how cool is that?
Yeah.
I don't even, these are like words I've heard my whole life, but never contemplated their meaning or their presence and how they show up. That's just, again, the beauty of thought work and learning this. And oh, just so good.
Yeah,
Just, I'm
being
just sitting here, I'm
resilient.
just going to listen to you and just think.
Well, desire,
Mm,
that's one. I think if we had to start at the easiest one, that's we think that's at the top.
mm,
My desire, again, looking at losing weight, my desire to lose weight. Oh, my desire's big until you hit my favorite food. Donuts are not a big thing for me. Donuts are always the go-to example, and I can pass up a donut more easier than I could pass up, let's say, homemade bread.
mm-hmm.
or
Why?
or what?
Why?
Why?
Mm-hmm.
I am not really a donut person. My husband is a huge donut person. They've just never been my thing. But
Mm-hmm.
ooh, give me some homemade bread and some butter. Yeah. So, my desire to lose weight is great. But then you put my favorite food on there, and that's when desire gets tested. So we think our desire is great, but is it greater than wanting that immediate gratification?
Right.
That's what we have to work on building.
What the true
Desire for the
desire,
long game.
right. True desire. What do you truly desire in life? This
Yeah,
piece of bread or your long-term goal?
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
And, I guess it really works. A good example is exercising. We
Mhm.
talked a couple of weeks ago about you're working on your 5K, your sub 30 5K.
Mhm.
And the long game comes into play for sure when you're working on a goal like that, right?
It does. And this is so interesting to talk about. Like, there's all the things, the discomfort, the discipline, the commitment. And
Discipline's the next one, yeah.
there's also, you were talking about the willingness to fail. There's a lot of failure. Um, but the, I guess it would be the resilience. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm committed to the goal.
Yeah.
Now, I may not hit, when I don't know. It's so interesting to think like, I don't know when I'm going to hit this goal.
Mhm.
Could be a year. I think I'm just now kind of saddling on to that idea. In the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm going to knock this out. I'm going to get this. I'm going to hit this goal. In fact, I was convinced I was going to hit it a few weeks ago. Yeah, no.
Well, and that's where, like you said, that's where the resilience comes in. That's where the
Mhm.
discipline comes in. That's where the commitment comes in.
Mhm.
Because we want change, but we want it now.
Oh, yeah.
That's the other thing. I want to wake up tomorrow and be a size 8.
Mhm.
But if that's really what I want. I mean, if we're getting real. But that's not what it takes. It takes commitment to the long game. Um, Knowing that it might be a year before you run your sub 30, but it's out there.
Mhm.
It might be a year before I hit my goal weight, but it's
Mhm.
out there. And I have to keep saying no to other things to say yes to that.
Yeah, and it's so important, and I think in this moment to talk about, just listening to you say that and me talking about my goal and what's really the value of this is who I become along the way, whether
Mhm.
it's my weight loss journey
Yes.
or this journey for the sub 30. It's who I'm becoming and what I'm learning about myself and what I make all of my successes and failures and learning opportunities, I'd rather call them, what I make it mean about me.
Mhm.
Some
So
curiosity.
the other one that I want to talk about that we don't think about very often. I mean, I think it's easy to say change brings resilience and commitment and desire and discipline and maybe the courage to fail is a new thought to people, but curiosity
Mhm.
is such an important part of committing to change.
And how is that?
I'm so glad you
I'm
asked.
curious.
Yes. Yeah, and you have to be curious, right? What you were just talking about with being committed to change and how it can take a long time. As we are failing, as we're not succeeding, people get stuck on the metrics of it, on the scale number or on the size they're wearing. And they stop being curious about real ways to change other than the number on the scale.
Mhm.
What other ways can I change, or what other ways can I get there?
That is such a big one, that scale, what people make it mean and how they can totally become so focused on that number
Yeah.
and not see their successes and how they have changed their lives and how they have who they've become and how
Hmm.
they've become a planner and how they have up leveled their food choices and how they've become athletes. It's
Better parents, better partners.
right, right, and how they just generally feel better about themselves. But that number and what they make it mean, and it's just a thought.
Hmm.
It's so incredible.
Yeah. So being curious, what what have I accomplished? What have I um how have I changed other than, some number on a scale? Or um how have I changed, other than changing a habit, not having a drink?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Drinking's huge too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
So
are.
nothing changes. Just to recap, nothing changes until our thoughts change.
Mm-hmm.
We can be stuck in a job, in a weight, in a marriage, and simply changing the circumstance. And that does go for weight too. Some people lose all their weight and then they struggle to keep it off because they haven't changed their thoughts. They haven't changed um, their commitment once to committing to it for life.
Yeah.
So you have to really do that interior work, that thought work, um, if you're going to have real change.
Yeah. Did we talk much about being stuck, about the process of being stuck?
We didn't.
You
Tell us.
just said that word, and I was thinking, wait a minute, did we really? Because you can be stuck in wanting change
Oh,
versus the
yeah.
like that can take a long time. And all it is, Sonya, correct me if I'm wrong, is make a choice.
Yeah.
Just decide. Get off the fence, make a decision, and you keep moving forward.
Yeah. I've referenced other podcasts. Go back to Overwhelm. I mean, to the podcast we did on overwhelm, people will sit in stuck or overwhelmed or I don't know what to do
Right.
forever
Yeah.
instead of taking the action of committing to change.
Yeah. And a commitment to change can just be, it doesn't have to be huge. It
Mm-mm.
can be just small. I'm going to get up 2 minutes earlier. I'm going to walk a half mile. I'm going to, just small steps to
I'm going
make
to
it.
decide to love my spouse today.
Yeah.
I'm going to decide to do my job with everything I've got today.
Yeah.
Just today, I'm going to put everything I have into it and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm going to focus on staying in the moment and not let my brain go to the future where worry lives.
Yeah.
I'm going to stay present.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's good stuff.
All right, Judith, I think we're wrapping it up for today. Thank you all for joining us. If you like what you hear, please go to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. We would appreciate that. And we'll see you next week on the Coaches Cup.
See ya.